The other thing, Eunice, that people keep questioning is whether there's the demand in China for twice as much grain as we had, or ag products as we had been exporting in the past. Is there a demand for that, or is that pie in the sky, do you think?
There is a lot of demand for U.S. soybeans as well as pork, especially right now, because the government here is trying to shore up the pig population after the African swine fever had ravaged the pig herd here. And then because Lunar New Year is coming up in January, this is a time when everybody likes to buy pork. And there has been a serious concern on the part of the government here that there isn't going to be enough pork on the dinner tables during this multi-day traditional holiday. And the concern there is that people could get pretty angry about it, and then that could fall in the lap of the government. So there is definitely a big push for that. But what you guys were talking about, one of the things that I think is interesting is that the Chinese and the U.S. do both agree that this truce is good for the markets, because the National Statistics Bureau released the November data. And as part of that, they said that the Phase 1 trade agreement would help to improve market expectations. So that is the official line that we've been hearing quite a lot. There are, though, questions and concerns, as you guys were talking about, that some of these key points have been lost in translation. So the hard targets, as you guys were talking about, Lighthizer had said it could be $40 to $50 billion that China promised. The Chinese have not confirmed that number. The Chinese have said that the U.S. Agreed that they would roll back tariffs and there would be a phase out step by step. Lighthizer has said we have not made such a promise. And then on the Phase 2 negotiation, as you guys were discussing, President Trump had said this is going to happen immediately. But then the Chinese said that this Phase 2 negotiation is going to be dependent on the Phase 1 implementation. So still a lot of question marks. I got on the phone. I've been talking to a lot of people today. And most of the people I talked to are either government linked or are close to the negotiations, but a bit outside. And they all think that in terms of the tariff rollback, that there is no real disagreement, and that the U.S. understanding is that there would be removals of tariffs, but it's based on conditions, whereas the Chinese believe we are going to meet those conditions. So therefore, at some point, there will be a phase out. So that's not a real concern. The other area, though, that might be a little bit more challenging is with those hard targets, because the way it was explained to me is that the Chinese government doesn't want to publicly acknowledge these hard targets because of the possible backlash they could have with their citizens. So there is not going to be any discussion about the hard targets, but most people do believe, even the one source that I have who's pretty close in the government, that is that China did agree to those $40 to $50 billion of agricultural products. The question, though, or one of the things that people have also been saying, though, is that they think that this is a soft target, and it's what was described to me as a best endeavor target, that the U.S. would accept if the Chinese make a best effort to get as close as possible to this target. But it was just because exactly what you were talking about, Joe, that the number and the math might not work for China. But as long as they're buying a lot of American stuff, they could kind of get away with it.
Right. OK.
But Eunice, just to put a finer point on this, all the sources that you talk to are on the Chinese side of the negotiating table, because the idea of those rollbacks. Yeah. I'm guessing. I mean, we haven't heard anything about the rollback of the additional tariffs, and I'm guessing that might be one of the things that might have gotten lost in translation in this.
Yeah, no, that was one of the points. And so, again, like I was talking to a lot of people on the Chinese side. And so their understanding was that it's kind of linguistic, that when you say phase out, that the reason why the Chinese officials, when they said it was going to be a phase out, it's going to be step by step. And then later, Lighthizer had said, no, actually, we have not agreed to a future rollback. Yeah. That, again, it's all based on conditions, so that the U.S. would allow for a removal of tariffs, but only if the Chinese meet the conditions. But then the Chinese think, well, we are going to meet the conditions, so of course there's going to be a phase out. So then it's not really so different in their understanding of what's going to happen.